Hello, everyone. This is Boom.
And I'm Spice. This is Boom and Spice Book Advice with another new series. We're just churning out the hits over at Boom and Spice Studios. And this week, we're starting our new series discussing poetry. It's going to be entitled Poetry Potluck, which is such a good idea because that's essentially what it is. Each of us, Boom and I, obviously. That is
Everybody here.
all two of us. The gang's all here. Each of us are gonna bring a poem to the table. We're gonna read it, and we're going to discuss it. There's no smoke and mirrors here. I have no idea who the poetry or who the
Yeah.
poem. Man, I can't talk today. Who the poet is that Boom chose? I don't know the poem. There's every chance I do know it, or I do know who they are, but I do not know firsthand. So
Yep.
you're going to be getting our snap reactions at the potluck. And this week, I'm going to be reading Flames by Billy Collins. This is my favorite poem, and it's the poem that got me into poetry. And it's the one that got me to start writing it. And I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, Flames by Billy Collins. Smokey the Bear heads into the autumn woods with a red can of gasoline and a box of wooden matches. His ranger's hat is cocked at a disturbing angle. His brown fur gleams under the high sun as his paws, the size of catcher's mitts, crackle into the distance. He is sick of dispensing warnings to the careless, the half-wit camper, the dumbbell hitchhiker. He's going to show them how a professional does it. That was Flames by Billy Collins. What do you think?
Hell yeah. All right. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's my favorite poem. I enjoy it quite a bit. I've actually got a pin on my backpack with Smokey the Bear on it for that exact reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I like that a lot.
I'm a big fan. It's right there. If Boom could see it, you guys
I
can't.
saw it. It's
Yeah,
a nice
yeah.
little Smokey the Bear right
Exactly.
on his backpack.
Yeah, it says protect our force, which is not what's happening in Flames. But I love it because it subverts expectations and it's funny without trying to be funny.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how it's almost like a light thing. Yeah, funny, but you can kind of get in there with a serious issue that we're not that people are not too great with, and nature and Smokey the Bear being fed up, and that's
Exactly.
kind of what we're running into with the world right now.
And you can imagine Smokey the Bear is frustrated right now
Mm-hmm.
with the fires in California and stuff.
Certainly.
Like especially the ones that were started by pregnancy parties, whatever those are called, gender reveal parties. I don't know.
Pregnancy party.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just a baby
We
shower.
just have the alliteration right now.
Exactly.
Pregnancy party.
Yeah, we're gonna have a pregnancy potluck on the channel at some point. Yeah, a poetry party. I don't know. I guess. But I enjoy the imagery here, where it's like when he says, as his paws, the size of catcher's mitts, crackle into the distance, because bears are kind of they've been infantilized in our culture a bit. They've been softened, and they've been almost gentrified to the point where now you think of bears, you think a little like teddy bears. Like, I could give a bear a hug. I love bears, especially Smokey the Bear. He's got a name and he wears overalls. Of course, I'd like Smokey. He's got a hat, but he's got like paws the size of catcher's mitts. He's a bear. He's a grizzly bear. And you don't want to mess with him. And he's got bad intentions. When he says he's got terrible intentions, he is going to show them how a professional does it. There's so much implication there.
Certainly.
It's like
Hell yeah.
if Smokey the Bear's arson crimes is a shark, that's the dorsal fin. That's the thing that's just barely above the surface. And then you have to imagine what's beneath it. Because that either says this is his first time, but he knows how to do it right, or this is one of many, and he's going to show them truly how a professional does it. That's why I love it. There's implications you can read into. It's very funny. It's very accessible. I feel like people confuse poetry for like hoity-toity, like highfalutin language that forces people to sit there and chew on it for hours. You can get the meaning of flames like that.
Yeah. Oh, I really like that. Just real short, sweet, but absolutely to the point
Fantastic.
and entertaining.
Yeah, it's a good time.
It was I was like getting ready to like buckle up there, and there's no seatbelt necessary.
Exactly. It's a fun ride.
Mm-hmm.
So what poem did you choose?
All right, so I've been like on the fence even today about this. I'm not. This was like almost my first kind of like dabbling into poetry beyond just reading it for a class. But what I'm going with is, for reasons that almost relate to my situation or what has happened to me, is It Might Have Been by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. And it goes as follows. We will be what we could be. Do not say, it might have been, had not, or this or that. No fate can keep us from the chosen way. He only might who is. We will do what we could do. Do not dream. Chance leaves a hero all uncrowned to grieve. I hold all men are greatly what they seem. He does who could achieve. We will climb where we could climb. Tell me not of adverse storms that kept thee from the height. What eagle ever missed the peak he sought? He always climbs who might. I do not like the phrase, it might have been. It lacks all force, and life's best truth perverts. For I believe we have, and reach and win, whatever our deserts.
I really enjoyed that. I find it hilarious. Like, this is the true nature of the poetry potluck, that you chose this deep poem discussing themes that relate back to your life.
I love it.
And I chose this goofy little poem about Smokey the Bear setting fires. I enjoy the nonsense language in there in terms of, well, it's not quite nonsense. It's unconventional language used in a way that draws your attention. I feel like that's something people, like, a little boom and spice book advice real quick. When I read a poem, there are things I look for initially that I try to suss out meaning from right away. And first, obviously, rhyme scheme, because people try to put meaning towards where they rhyme. But then also alliteration. And then you look for punctuation. And then you look for where lines break. In terms of if it's sitting alone, or if there's a break that might not make sense grammatically, then it means something symbolically. Mm-hmm. And then this one's I don't typically think about this. It's a situation like this, where if something is done wrong intentionally, then you ought to sit there and think, why would they do it this way? Because obviously there's a meaning behind it. It's not gobbledygook. It's meaningful stuff. So choosing to be wrong on purpose or unconventional on purpose is a strength of that poem, because it draws your attention to something that you may not have taken into account before, in terms of those lines where it's a little wonky.
Yeah.
How did you come across this poem?
Well, for me, since I hadn't been into many in the past, it started off with a lot of just Google searching famous poets, but I didn't want to go. I didn't think that I'd really find a lot of like connection with anything that's just super out there, because the first things that came to mind were like, oh, poetry. I know poetry, like Fire and Ice, like right there, right there. So I wanted to go a little bit further than that. So I started looking through it, and I was looking for titles. Like I was on this just some big long list and stuff, and I was like, it might have been. And that's something that with me and like people I know talk to a lot about me, or like when people are discussing stuff about me, like had not for injuries I've had or stuff like that, who knows where I could have made it. And I don't like to live, or at least dwell on those kind of things. If it doesn't happen, I don't like to be put in that cage of I can only, I want to be in control of my life and where I take it.
Exactly.
It's not because of these things that happen. If I was meant to be doing that, then I would have done it, and I didn't, and that's okay.
That's some good boom and spice life advice.
Yeah,
That's right there. That's some wonderful boom and spice life advice. And on that note, would you recommend Flames for someone else?
Yeah, Flames, especially for someone like myself. If poetry is not something that you are routinely reading, or you don't have a good grasp on it, I really enjoyed that for like its simplicity and the implications you can draw from it if you do look further.
Can you repeat the author and title of your poem?
Absolutely. It Might Have Been, from Emma Wheeler Wilcox.
So, I believe It Might Have Been by Emma Wheeler Wilcox is a great poem for someone in a state of flux, for someone who might have just gotten out of high school or just out of college or in a new stage of life. And you're at a point in life where you can look back and you can go, if I didn't do A, then where would I be? And I feel like when you think like that, you're forcing yourself out of the current moment. And it's not a healthy form of retrospection. There's good ways to retrospect or to view things in retrospect where you go, I did this wrong. What will I do if that situation arises again? Or if someone else is met with that situation, how will I advise them? An unhealthy way of doing that is, I messed up. Now I need to ruminate in it and live in my mistakes.
Yep,
And,
absolutely.
yeah.
Or, letting yourself become a victim of circumstance. Somewhat like there's no need to dwell on what might have been, or I like it. I like is in particular in the line, "What eagle ever missed the peak he sought?" So that's the one, and then the line right behind it: "He always climbs who might." Because you hear it's almost it's talking about excuses for me.
Yeah.
How it's easy to make an excuse for a lot of things that you weren't able to do, or maybe even, maybe something did stop you, but that's no reason to sit there and stew and hate. You'll do what you can do. And that's all you can do.
Yeah, and I think he always climbs who might is a statement partially on wasted potential in terms of, like, it's easy to get overwhelmed by potential in front of you. There's so much out there that if you view it in its totality, then you're going to get so overwhelmed that you won't be able to move.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a part of us making this podcast, where there's so much stuff we want to do, we've discussed doing on this podcast, that we may do in the future, that it's an honestly overwhelming amount of stuff. And it's truly awe-inspiring in a negative way almost. That's like, Jesus, there is so much sitting in front of us that we could touch on, that it can get you dumbstruck. Mm-hmm. And that is the way you need to think about it. Man who climbed the mountain might. It starts as, I may. And while this is not quite climbing a mountain, buying a couple of cheap microphones and reading some books, it's still an accomplishment. It's truly, that's a very useful poem. I'm glad you brought it to my attention. If you could repeat your author and poem title one more time for the viewer.
Yep, absolutely. It might have been Ella Wheeler Wilcox. And then we'll do Flames again.
Yep. It is Flames by Billy Collins. He was a poet laureate of America for a long time, the United States. Very popular, fun poem, and very popular, fun poet. And that'll be it. Until next time, I've been Spice.
And I'm Boom.
And you've been advised.